inclusive growth. Can I request the chair of the session, Rita Tihotia, Additional Secretary, Department of Electronics and Telecom, Ministry of Communication and IT, India. Mr. R. Shivakumar, CEO, NSDI, Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. Dr. Sandeep Chatterjee, Additional Director, DIT. Mr. Neil Ratan, Executive Director, PricewaterhouseCoopers Private Limited. Dr. Ramesh Jalan, Resource Person and Moderator, Climate Change Community Solution Exchange, UNDP India. I also invite Dr. Ravi Gupta, Editor-in-Chief, eGov Magazine, to join us. I request Rita Tihotia to take over the session.
Good afternoon. Am I audible? Well, good afternoon to you all. This is the last session, and I'm aware that because of the excitement of the morning session perhaps and the last session, you should have been pretty thirsty and in need of your tea, but the organizers have denied you the tea break. But let me take this opportunity, because this is a critical session, and I believe for the audience which is here today of tremendous relevance. We have a very strong panel here. I'd like to just mention Mr. Ramesh Jalan, the resource person for the Climate Change Community Solution Exchange, UNDP India. Mr. Shivakumar, CEO, NSDI, Department of Science and Technology. Mr. Sandeep Chatterjee from DIT. And of course, Mr. Gupta, who is known to all of you and would certainly support us with his views. Now, I take the liberty as chair of actually trying to set the framework for the discussion in the form of a presentation regarding whether there really is a role for ICT in ensuring the inclusive growth of our economy, or whether that's not a solution at all and the solution lies elsewhere. So Let me take this through a small presentation, and then perhaps I will request the speakers one by one to contribute. We talk a lot now about inclusive growth, but one of the challenges for a country like ours is actually to understand how it is to be achieved. We have the usual truisms about our country, about the disparity, the diversity within the country, and the kind of complexities that brings in to the way in which we govern ourselves and the way we deliver programs. At the same time, with a country that's growing the way ours is, there are aspirations and there are responses that a government gives or that a community gives to those aspirations. I'd like to look at whether ICT really makes an impact on that. What are the key initiatives that have been undertaken in response or in the initiative to try and use ICT to improve quality of services, improve the access to services, and perhaps what could be the way ahead for us. These are the things we know about the country. In terms of population, 1.2 billion, 2/3 of it rural, large number of languages, religions, ethnicities, a democracy that is maddening and yet it somehow works, and a large number of democratic institutions at multi-tier levels. When we look in terms of the promise, the last 2 decades have seen much more market integration than we had seen earlier. We've got a fairly healthy GDP growth rate over the last decade, and even when it falters, it is much stronger than many of the countries globally. Our average per capita incomes have risen substantially, and nevertheless, in this context, we still see that South Asia contributes more than 40% of the world's poor, and within our own country, there's more than 300 million poor people, approximately 20% of the world's poor. And the disparities are apparent in terms of not just income, in terms of access to education, in terms of access to healthcare also. One of the very strong policy responses to the aspirations of people who have sought to see that they also share in the economic growth of our country has been to create a very strong rights framework. And this is reflected in the right to information, the right to employment as embodied in the NREGA Act, the right to education, and now what is now under finalization, the right to food and the right to public services. In order to address disparities, we are spending something like 150,000 crores annually in various programs like the NREGA, the Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan. You can see the numbers there. So the investment and the will of government to create a framework that is accountable, that enables citizens to exercise their rights, and to put money where that commitment lies is quite apparent. And nevertheless, in this context, what we see is that the outcomes, or perhaps the speed with which this kind of legislative framework, this kind of rights-based framework, and this kind of investment should be giving us outcomes, isn't happening. It's in this context that perhaps it's relevant that we are talking about ICT for inclusive growth. The physical means of delivery in a country of the scale and complexity of ours has certain limitations. There are, and we've seen it globally across the world, that new information and communication technologies are some of driving growth stories in many, many countries in the world. Within India also, there is a certain set of circumstances, emerging numbers, which presents us with an opportunity. We have a large base of the active internet users, about 65 million, and that's a fast-growing base. And the mobile connections, the total mobile connections now have crossed, this says 19 million, but the last numbers that we were looking at was 975 million. So this is a number which changes week to week. And the total number of mobile connections that we have in this country is a number we talk of often. But how do you leverage these kind of numbers? How do you make these a tool for delivery of services? This doesn't perhaps mean that we have this many number of persons, but at least 76% is the mobile penetration which has been assessed, and that is a very substantial population that can be reached. The newer technologies that we are aware of allows us to make much faster, easier delivery of services, and at the same time we are confronted with the public pressure for better quality of services and much more transparency. The responses have been, and this again looks at the same time as which the union government has looked to roll out with large schemes, large programs to deliver programs to the public, to deliver the basic entitlements to the community. There's also been a very strong approach to use ICT tools to facilitate the delivery of some of those. These 31 mission mode projects, many people in this room are familiar with these, so I'm not going to repeat it, but these cover nearly every sector of service delivery that the government has to give to its citizens. And some of these are at different stages, but a total of 275 services are intended to be delivered across these 31 mission mode projects, as we call them. 10 of these projects are at the central level, 14 at the state level, and 7 of these are integrated projects. And many of them have started rolling out services in different ways, but the objective of ensuring much more efficient delivery of services is what drives each one of these mission mode projects. The point that comes up in most of the debate and discussion now is, yes, we've looked at a lot of e-enabled services. We've been working under the NEGP program for years, and a lot of achievement has happened. But nevertheless, we also feel that we have fallen somewhat short of our objectives. So the current thinking is around the idea of whether mobile-enabled services can be that game changer that we are looking for. This provides straight away, because we look at the numbers, much wider access to the e-services, and these in turn to the more sustainable and inclusive growth. The limits of internet penetration in the country, though as the previous session would have talked about, the no-fund network will certainly improve that, but currently it limits our access to e-government services. The mobiles enable us to provide anytime, anywhere access to and delivery of services, and allows us to bridge that last mile gap. The kind of investments which are required proportionate to the benefits we can deliver are not that substantial. And these are very amenable to delivery of the government services, particularly financial inclusion, microcredit, and location-based services. Last year, rather early this year, the DAIT came out with the framework for mobile governance, which aimed to tap exactly this tool in order to facilitate the quality of and the reach of services to the community. What did the framework prescribe? First, to make the websites of all government departments and agencies mobile compliant, to provide access, that means to information as well as to responses. Recommended for the open standards for mobile applications so that they were interoperable across devices and across platforms. A single-digit pre-designated number has been allotted to DAIT for M-government services, and those numbers, as you can see, we are already delivering some services on the 5-digit number, and on the 3-digit number that's to be rolled out. And there was a mandate that all mission mode projects and all government services should see, to the extent possible, what services they could deliver through mobile devices. The third large intervention, and that was as I came into the last piece of the previous session, there's been a lot of discussion about the common service centers, but this was the third very important initiative to ensure the quality of services and the access to services, in the sense that unlike in many Western countries, we don't have internet penetration to each and every home, but we can certainly target internet penetration to the community and community access through the tool of the Common Service Center. This, therefore, the Common Service Center actually works as a tool. The physical tool perhaps could be the physical connectivity, roads which allow market access, access to other services, access to educational institutions, and the Common Service Center, which provides the ICT connectivity, which facilitates social inclusion as well as financial inclusion. So this is a very key tool for the total integration of the rural community with the larger economy of the country. I believe that one of my colleagues would have represented earlier the total number of common service centers available through the country, but the only point I wish to make in this slide is that there is a countrywide reach and availability of common service centers, so that it becomes a tool to deliver the services. A lot of initiatives, when we look at the Millennium Development Goals, we focus key on financial inclusion, literacy, as well as health services. So a large number of initiatives have taken place in education, but they are piecemeal, and we still have to do that stitching of all these interventions to make a single mission mode project which provides services throughout the country. Again, in health, telemedicine, electronic health records, the e-insurance, mother and child tracking systems, a large number of interventions are in place, but in full measure, we are still working on the mission mode project which will deliver these. But in a substantial measure, the point is that government is seized of these three key sectors and the need to provide services in a better, more efficient way using ICT. In financial inclusion also, perhaps the previous session talked about the tools which are being deployed for financial inclusion and to ensure banking facilities and payment services, insurance services at the grassroots to the community. In conclusion, and perhaps to set the tone for what we would like to discuss and what I would hope that the panelists would look at, is the short point that ICT is a significant tool for making government services available to the common man. That mobile-based service delivery can ensure an accelerated uptake of services. That ICT in education, health, public distribution, banking, microinsurance will be key in reducing disparities across our country. And that ICT in schemes like NREGA, PDS, midday meal program are again essential to improve efficiency, transparency, and accountability of the government mechanism, and that we do have isolated examples throughout the country of good practices in ICT in each of these areas, and those are the ones which we have to leverage, and perhaps forums like this aim to utilize to the extent possible. So with that, I would request the first speaker and to kindly make his remarks. Dr. Ramesh Jalan, perhaps you would like to start.
Friends, I would like to touch upon the issue of knowledge sharing. Knowledge sharing is, I think, crucial for inclusive growth, and particularly knowledge sharing at the grassroots level. That's what we do. Wider choices. Through knowledge sharing, people at the grassroots level are able to have wider choices. And if people give wider choices, it leads to smarter development. The need of the hour is to think out of the box. And that is what we do at Solution Exchange. We have a network of development practitioners in India with over 35,000 subscriptions. This was set up in 2005, pioneered in this country with 13 online communities, and we have generated more than 2,000 substantial knowledge products. It is a part of the UN Development Action Framework. India is the only country where assistance has been changed to action. The government does not want assistance from the UN, it wants action from the UN. We leverage the convening power, international reach, and immense development experience of the UN. What is the uniqueness of Solution Exchange? Why did I say we think out of the box? Because it is a moderated knowledge sharing platform, impartial platform for exchange of knowledge and ideas amongst development practitioners in key thematic areas. It has a very diverse membership, and it adopts an all-inclusive approach, connects practitioners and makes their tacit knowledge. Very little is talked of tacit knowledge in this country, and that is, I think, perhaps the most important part of our knowledge, the experiential knowledge, the traditional knowledge. And this needs to be brought to the notice of public at large, which we do through our various services that we offer. It provides coverage of a wide spectrum and rich inputs to selected development themes. These are the 13 communities of practice that are active in this country. I look after the climate change community of practice facilitated by UNDP. Solution Exchange is now spreading all over the world. It is an extremely successful platform, and that is why probably the organizer thought it appropriate for us to give us an award for our initiative. We are now in the Pacific Islands, Philippines, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Russia. Now we are talking to Myanmar. It's spreading faster than we thought. These are the various services that we offer. Query service. Any query on any technical subject within the 13 communities is being answered in great detail within a time span of 15 to 21 days. We have e-discussion. Suppose there is an important topic, suppose there is a draft paper of the Government of India for which comments are required, those are also dealt with. Then we have action groups where topics are dealt with in depth, like financial inclusion, like sustainable campuses, compendium of climate responsive technologies, and what have you. This is how the community works. You have a facilitator, we have a two-team facilitator, we have support team, resource person, then we have resource groups, then we have a number of members, and this entire ecosystem is the community of practice. Members send queries, we work with members to evolve those queries so that other members answer. Community members give a large number of answers. Try this, I did this, read this. They give you resources. And please remember, it is voluntary. We do not pay for any responses. And often I have been asked, how is it for 7 years that we are able to run these communities of practice? Because members feel that the voices are being heard and they can contribute freely and impartially and neutrally to the cause for which they stand. After the discussion is over, we have a consolidated reply which is sent to all the members and archived on our website for posterity. I'm sure this slide is going to surprise you all. These are the large range of knowledge products that we create through our various discussions. Impact case studies, thematic guidance note, thematic newsletters, briefing notes, background papers, supplements to books, journals, you name it, and we do it all. We are not only a virtual platform, we have series of diverse face-to-face events. We were deeply involved in a number of consultations for the 12th five-year plan approach paper. We hold regional workshops, thematic-based national workshops, collaborative colloquiums, etc. Now I would like to briefly touch upon, before I come to the case studies, on knowledge sharing for inclusive growth. According to the European Commission, the importance of information and communication technology lies less in the technology itself rather than in the ability to create greater access to information and services. We need to give access to the common man. We need to give access to the people. Therefore, knowledge sharing is very, very crucial. The usage of ICT in healthcare, which was just spoken about, education, and climate change awareness. Creation can help reduce the cost of delivery of services, information, and enhance overall efficiency of all the stakeholders. ICT contributes to increased transparency, as we have heard, accountability in delivery of programs, because with a focus on achieving inclusive growth. Knowledge sharing along with capacity building on utilization of ICT for inclusion of marginalized communities. The bottom of the pyramid, I think this is imperative. I will come up with some of the examples that we have worked on as part of our Solution Exchange initiative at the UN. We worked on e-Chopals. The initiative provided internet access to farmers for seeking information on products and services to enhance productivity, improve farm gate price realization. And I also give you the links of these. I think this presentation would be there with the organizers after we speak. Telecenter on Wheels. The project involved use of a mobile information kiosk with laptops and internet connection to disseminate information in villages. ICT for e-governance. The government of West Bengal utilized mobile phones to strengthen e-governance initiatives, starting with information dissemination on health, education, and sanitation schemes. Kisan is called the Kashka Information System Services and Networking, involves a multimodal delivery of agriculture information systems in Kerala. Resource centers with ICT tools. Rural Education Development, READ, has supported panchayats in setting up community library and resource centers in villages. The center provides ICT tools for capacity building. Then we have digital learning resources, DLRs these are called. Care at a distance. The system developed by Cisco enables remote examination and consultation. We don't need to go to a doctor. GIS maps of health facilities and disease prevalence is also being done. Now I look at some of the effects of ICT initiatives to address climate change impacts. We have the project of eRIC project. It utilizes ICTs to facilitate climate smart agriculture. We need to have climate smart agriculture. The farmer needs to know whether it's going to rain, when it is going to rain, how the monsoon is going to be spread, because now we are finding the weather patterns changing. The monsoons getting skewed. I think in Delhi you might have noticed for the last couple of years more rainfall in August, September rather than July, August. The Fisher Friend program, this is being pioneered by the MS Swaminathan Foundation. It processes satellite information to provide weather forecast and fishing zone information in local languages. Our emphasis is not on English, it's on the local language. I often believe that knowledge of a language is not a test of one's intelligence. I think this is a fact. Knowledge of a language is not the test of one's intelligence. In the Disaster Resource Network, It is a nationwide electronic inventory of essential and specialist resources for disaster response. With climate change, we are likely to face more disasters. Using world space satellite radio for effective warning dissemination, community radios, these all are very important tools for communication. I would like to conclude by saying existing ICT initiatives have contributed significantly in achieving inclusive growth through delivery of essential information and services for the common man. However, knowledge sharing regarding these initiatives has really been very, very limited. I would like to say it's almost been negligible. There is a need to significantly scale up and replicate the ongoing initiatives, some of which I have highlighted, and there are many more. Funding for ICT for inclusive growth needs to be mobilized from the government, private sector, and development sector, and there is a huge need for this. I would like to end by requesting the organizers that an important topic on inclusive growth should not have been the last session of the program. It is my suggestion that they should probably look at in the future to have a little more before the last session, so that people can benefit from the importance of this subject. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Dr. Jalan, for that exposition on the work of solution exchange and the manner in which the development practitioners who constitute part of that provide inputs to policy and program. I will now request Dr. Sandeep Chatterjee, Additional Director in DIT, to kindly make his remarks.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Madam Rita Tiotia, distinguished panelist in the dais. I'm really grateful to the organizer and especially Mr. Ashish Channels for giving this opportunity to speak few words on the subjects of electronic waste management. That is maybe totally out of context from the discussion we are listening for last two days. But of course, there is a linkage. If you are having such a huge program of e-government in our country, we will be generating a lot of e-waste. And that is the real problem in our country. Now, before discussing the subjects, we should see how last 20 years our economy is growing. It is the fourth largest economy. GDP is 4.463 trillion in 2011. Sustained growth is almost 8%. Fastest growing forest reserves, it is nearly 300 billion US dollars in 2012. It was only 1 billion in 91. Largest working population of 30 to 40 millions in Indian middle class is adding on every year. 30% population is adding on into 25 to 44 years of age by 2020. Increasing urbanization and rising expenditure, that is obviously increasing the ICT penetration in our country. 47% of TV, mobile effectively is 59% as per the Census Commission of India. Fixed telephone is 10%. Internet users is 8%. Internet host is 3.1%. Broadband connection is 11 millions. Cars is 16 millions. Credit card is 18 millions. And new houses is 3.9 millions. This growth, of course, it is linked to one of the sunrise industry. It started late 80s, ICT industries. So if you see our data, it is growing exponentially from 1988 to till date. 2011-12 figures, 117.26 billion US dollars of our software and hardware industries. Mostly the softwares and services are for exports in our country, 68.7 billion US dollars. Hardware is generally imported in our country. It is only 9.17 US dollars for your exports. but we are consuming, we are generating 29.6 billion US dollars. This industry has a contribution to the national GDP for 6.4%. Our growth in this industry is 18% by dollar terms. IT industry has generated almost 3 million professionals and 9 million indirect employment. We are just not giving the numbers. We have generated in qualities also. More than 100 companies are having a CMM level 5 certification. All those data I have shown you to see how the end of life electronics are growing in our country. There was no real inventory studies from government yet, but there are private sectors and NGOs and industry associations have ventured to find out what is the generation. In 2007, one initiative has been taken by GIZ and MET, and they have taken only 3 products: computers, mobile phone, and television. They have seen 3,33,000 metric ton of electronic waste, and they have taken a simple calculation of 7 years for televisions, shelf life, mobile for 1 year, and computer for 3 years. And there is a illegal import also. India is a signatory to the Basel Convention. USA is not. So there are issues. There are, we do not know the exact figure, but in this study they have projected that 50,000 metric ton of imported electronic waste in our country, and this is the condition in China, Brazil, India, and African countries also. But out of this 3 lakhs metric ton of generation of electronic waste, only 1/3, that is 1,44,000 metric tons are available for recycling, and out of which only 19,000 metric ton has been recycled. So this is also an issue that we are not getting the channelize that electronic waste generated in our country for recycling. And there are more than 5,000 electronic waste imported in 2005 itself, and the 270 medium and big scrap dealers are also operating in this country, and more than 3 to 5,000 small recyclers involved in this country. Another study taken by CPCB and some other agencies has estimated that 2012, 8 lakh metric ton of electronics waste has been estimated. They have taken much more product than these 3 I have mentioned. And if I take that figure as a base and took a conservative 10% of growth in 2007, MET and GTZ has estimated, so it will be nearly 2 million of metric ton of electronic waste by 2020. So what is the scenario of electronic waste in our country? Most electronic waste has been recycled by non-formal sectors in our country, that is 95%. 5% are coming in formal sectors. More than 5,000 non-formals are operating in this business. Mainly they are surrounded in metropolis. In Delhi itself, there are 10,000 to 15,000 operators, manpowers are working in these non-formal sectors. Already I have mentioned 250 are the scrap dealers. And MOEF, Ministry of Environment and Forest, and CPCB have started registering the formal recyclers in our country. In 2008, they have given the 23 number of formal recyclers. Now this number has gone to 73, but frankly speaking, only 5 to 10 are operational. Now, what are the government agencies are responsible for these subjects? Electronic waste, like other hazardous waste, is a subject of Ministry of Environment and Forest. And they are making the laws, rules, and they are implementing it. CPCB, Central Pollution Control Board, is basically implementing the laws, and they are acting with State Pollution Control Board, and mainly the imports and other hazardous materials coming to our country has been seen by DGFT and Port Authority of India. And these are the chronological order how the electronic waste has been addressed by different legislative measures in different point of time. Now we have a exclusive law of electronic waste. It has been initiated in 2011. Now from 1st May of 2012, it is enforced. And one part of this electronic waste is called ROS, that is hazardous substance in the electronic product. This will be effective from 2014. And the guideline of how to handle this law and what do's and don'ts for the different stakeholders is also being considered in the government level. It is in guideline of implementation of e-waste law 2011. Now, what are the present e-waste law in our country says? Chapter 1 is talk about the short title and different types of implementation mechanism. Chapter 2 is talk about responsibility. Chapter 3 is basically the producers and seeking authorization handling e-waste. Chapter 4 is how to store that e-waste. Chapter 5 is reduction of the hazardous substance. This clause will be enacted from 2014. And Chapter 4 is the miscellaneous duties, responsibilities, transportation of e-waste, accident reporting, collection of data, storage, etc. And you have 3 schedules also. Schedules 1 shows that what will be the electronic waste in the present law. These are the items has been shortlisted to be considered as electronic waste in India, and this thing can be the list can be more in the new amendment will come. And this is the schedule 2 talks about the hazardous substance like the 6 substances like lead, mercury, chromium 6 plus, and flame retardant bromine, and what are the percentage will be allowed in India. Now what next? This law has been enacted from this year only, but there are a lot of issues and challenges are still there. People are talking about this law as toothless, do not have, don't mention any punishment, and there is no issues regarding to the target of collection, recycling target or generation target talked about, and they are talking about the technical auditing of the 73 authorized recyclers or approved recyclers are also been not taken up care. So lots of issues are there. In coming years, hopefully, this also will be addressed. But having a law, country like India, we having 1200 million population, and without giving a technical solution, it is really a issue. So, Department of IT, being a line Ministry of Electronics, this is entrusted on me, in us, so that we have a stable recycling mechanism. Whatever recycling practices till dates is available in India is basically, we do not have an end-to-end recycling in India. End-to-end mean we cannot treat the printed circuit board. We collect the recycle, segregate it, and we sorting it by the value from the market, like refurbishable elements and reusable elements. After that, dismantle them, and whichever components and modules are workable, we make it and sell it in the secondary market. And those are generating by the scrap, we are selling it to the metal scrap, plastic scrap, battery, CRT glass. But if you are talking about low and high quality of PCB, that printed circuit board, we generally sending it to the European country, mostly UMIC or Belgium, for recycling. This part, whatever is highlighted just now, has been done by formal and non-formal recyclers, a very efficient way. But the PCB sending PCB to the PCB smelters in Western country, and the non-formal sectors are trying to extract value metal, precious metal, by the hazardous practice in our country. This is the issue. This part has to be addressed. So this is the 3 major elements we can collect from e-waste, and these are the available technology: plastic, metal, and glass. Plastic can be taken by the chemical recovery, material recovery, and energy recovery. And metals can be recycled in smelting, hydrometallurgy, electrometallurgical process, and glass can be also recovered value material from it by smelting and material recovery process. Now, what are the issues? Here, non-formal sectors, 95% e-waste has been handled by them. They are using the manual handling of dismantling the things, removing components by heating in the coal-fired grill, bare hand, crude recycling methods, recovering precious metal, especially gold, copper, and silver, and their yield is very poor. They are losing most of the metals. 10 to 20% is the yield. Stripping the metals from the open pit, the gold and other metals, shipping and metallic plastics in proper ventilation. So these are the issues needs to be addressed. And so if you have a proper recycling technology in our country, so the law can also be implemented, or the metals or value materials can also be recovered, and this is a social responsibility also. If you see this slide, this is showing some of the metals will not be there enough from our earth another few years. Like if you are talking about tantalum, it is having a very useful metals for having a tantalum capacitors for a high storage capacity. So this is our duty for the future generation to save the tantalum metal. So whatever. Sorry. So if you see another data from EMPA Umicore, it is showing 2008, there are 1300 million of PC is having your silver of 325 metric ton, 31 metric ton of gold, 12 metric ton of lead, and 12,000 metric ton of copper, and 4,900 metric ton of cobalt, and that is almost 3, 4, 16, 1 and 1% of the total share of the global mining. So these metals are going to our electronics. So this is our duty to save those metals. And so secondary mining, the electronic waste recycling, is must in our in our society at present days. This is a figure taken by CPCB that's showing that in TV, your PC and refrigerator, how much metal components, glass, plastics are available for recovery. So this is a DIT's initiative in green electronics and e-waste management. We are trying to develop a cost-effective, environment-friendly e-waste recycling technology. We are promoting R&D to eliminate hazardous material from the electronics, to promote the awareness of all the stakeholders, promoting the environment-friendly electronics manufacturing, and trying to improve design of electronics so that hazardous metals or materials are eliminated from the product, and also sensitizing the researcher communities by writing article, reports, etc. So these are some of the initiative already has been taken, finding out the recycling technology for precious metal, plastic, glass, and promoting that explore the possibility of hazardous material from the environment-friendly things. So this is one of the successful project we did in National Metallurgical Laboratory, Jamshedpur, for recycling the PCB. And here we have done this project to the 95%. 1 metric ton e-waste has been done in the pilot plant stage, and 95% is the yield, and we are taking some steps to find out the commercial application also. This is the flow chart for this project. Mainly you have done the physical beneficiation methods to segregate the metal part, and after that chemical leaching method. So another project we are taking here in the printed circuit board has been depopulated by the centrifugal means, and after that we will be using the pyrometallurgical route. This is this project is going on, and this will be the tentative flowchart for that project. And this is another project for recycling the plastics, and we are doing it in CPET, and we have found there are 7 categories of plastics, and 27% of the plastics are there in the electronic waste. So we have taken that in the 3 plastics, halogenated flame retardant plastics, and what is the volume is used in electron.
Perhaps another minute or so.
Pardon.
Another minute, you'll be able to conclude.
Okay, just So this is another raw substance. This is the testing certification facility in CMAT Hyderabad. Now, this is another UNDP program along with DIT, is concluded in 2003. Now, apart from that, we are doing some reducing the lead-free metals, lead-free X-ray absorption. Some of the projects also we are doing, photovoltaics area, organic film area. So these are some of the publication we have done. Now you can leave it. These are some of the good practices in formal sector in abroad. We have changed our things also. In India, this is also the good practices are shown here. Now, what will be the conclusion? Presently, the e-waste is being done in non-formal sectors. So, why we propose that this recycling till PCB can be done in our country or in any developing country, so that the PCB is 5% to the whole e-waste. So, if you can do recycle it properly, this PCB can be an input material for recycling. And our recycling yield is very poor in non-formal sector, 10 to 20%, and this can be done in the better technology in developed country, and we can save or extract most of the metals from this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chatterjee. That was a fascinating presentation on a very different and interesting area. And I think what was important was also the scale, which we see, the accelerating scale of e-waste being generated in our country, and the potential for the need and the potential for recycling and the economic benefits of doing that. And I think in a sense that is very closely linked to the theme of inclusive growth, because inclusive growth has to also be sustainable, and therefore these are the issues which need to be addressed. May I request Mr. Shiv Kumar to kindly make his comments.
Good afternoon, everybody. I don't have a presentation, but I'll try to be brief and would like to share some of the initiatives of Government of India for ensuring inclusive growth. In my opinion, an inclusive growth, as the chairperson said, if it has to be sustainable, it can happen only by empowerment of our people. And I am personally, as well as our department, is dealing with how you can empower people through the data. That is where the ICT comes in. And when I talk data, data means in general data, but very specifically spatial data. So when we look back and see, we have very rich data resources in this country. I belong to a department called Survey of India, which makes maps, which you are all aware of. We have been making maps for the past 245 years. Like that, there are many such other governmental agencies which have been collecting data over a period of time. Unfortunately, many of the departments themselves do not know what data they are holding on to. We are not able to leverage the data sets because we ourselves do not know, let alone the public know about it. That is why there is a need for a metadata. Even if you have a metadata and you are able to discover the data through the metadata, there is a problem of interoperability. That is due to lack of standardization, a lack of uniformity, lack of standard operating procedures for data collection. Even if we ensure interoperability by way of enforcing standards, the policies in the country do not permit much of the data to be shared amongst the agencies, not only the private agencies, even among the governmental agencies. And if we are in the process of creating that kind of an environment, from through the policies which will enable easy and affordable data sharing. But finally, it comes to the basic mindset of human being of being very possessive of what he has got and not to share. After all, the human beings form part of the organizations, so the organizational culture and ethos also gets restricted to not to share the data sets. So keeping all this in mind, Government of India tried to do something with regard to the spatial data and with the objective of making the spatial data available and accessible in a standardized digital form. A national spatial data infrastructure was created in the year 2006. And we tried to work on that and create a metadata. Today we have the metadata of about 17 central government departments which are producing the spatial data. And which will also, we have also been in the process of creating the standards for metadata for the spatial data, and also standards for data exchange, standards for data content. It is as a part of the arrangement from the ISO, as well as there is another international organization called Open Geospatial Consortium, OGC, and our own BIS. The standards are being evolved over a period of time. However, it is just not making the data, metadata being made available, or the data is available in a standardized form. We must also make it accessible. Towards that end, we are in the process of creating the geoportals. One of the important geoportals is India Geoportal. Today, India Geoportal is providing a large amount of data in the form of web map services for the topographical data coming from the Survey of India and the remote sense data coming from our own remote sensing geoportal called Bhuvan. Also, some of the agencies like the Geological Survey of India and Forest Survey of India are in the process of creating their own web map services. This is to some extent possible because over a period of time, people sat together and a consensus was evolved amongst the data producing agencies to share the data sets, and which has given a hope for us to take it further. And that's how the Government of India is launching during the 12th plan a plan for establishing state spatial data infrastructure in all the states and the union territories with a total outlay of about 750 crores. It has also been realized that most of the litigation in the country is due to the land. More than 90% of, I was thinking it is 90%, one of the friends while during the lunch break was said it is more than 95% of litigation is due to the land. And most of the land issues are resulting out of non-availability of or accurate and reliable cadastral information. So Government of India has also a huge ambitious program of modernizing land records. There is a national land records modernization program with a total outlay of about 5,600 crores, out of which 3,500 crores coming from the Government of India. It is a tedious process. There are many challenges in that, mostly the technological challenges, like any one of you owning a plot of land wouldn't like the shape, size, or area of the land not to change. But if you want to bring a seamless cadastral information, it is difficult. Though there are some solutions which are possible, we are trying it out on how that can be done. Because we have a rich and traditional way of having the land records right from the days of Akbar, more strengthened during the British regime. Our land records are very good. But over a period of time, they have not been maintained, the mutations have not taken place, which results in a lot of litigation. And one more initiative of Government of India, which is of recent thing, On the 17th of March, we notified a national data sharing and accessibility policy, which is jointly being implemented by Department of Science and Technology and Department of Information Technology, under which we envisage over 86 central government ministries and departments to provide the data proactively so that whatever data collected from the public funds is available to the general public. Though it is not going to be completely open in that sense, there is a different levels of access. One is the open access, second is the registered access, and third is the restricted access, but most of the data will be available. Actually, this policy flows from the RTI, the right to information, because the right to information is more of a reactive in nature. When an individual seeks some information, he gets it, whereas in the National Data Sharing and Accessible Policy, we envisage proactively the government making the data open. I believe there was a session before the lunch on the open data and open government, and I'm sure that our initiative, which is taken in the Government of India, will pave way for the other state governments also to come on board and create such policies where the data is made available. But all these things need awareness, and awareness is created by organizations like this, like Ravi Gupta. Ravi was in big trouble a few years ago, almost over a decade ago, when he was the editor of a magazine called GIS Development. He published a picture of maps in shackles, and probably he was almost going to jail at that time. I don't know how he got out of it. But finally, it has led for the government to bring out the new policy of what is called a national map policy in the year 2005. It's not only the policy which was brought, it is also enable government to provide open series maps for the entire country, making it available. Today, you can get maps of any part of the country, the topographical maps, I mean. Similarly, which also paved the way for the remote sensing data policy and the present national data sharing and accessibility policy. So the organizations like Ravi Gupta need to create such kind of awareness and pose the issues and the challenges which will help even the government to take into consideration such issues which are of importance, which will certainly empower the people and which will enable an inclusive growth. With these few words, I thank you all, and I thank Ravi for giving me the opportunity.
I think it's quite appropriate that the last word should be with Mr. Ravi Gupta, so I'll request him to make his comments.
I will talk about a few burning issues I think which are important from a e-governance perspective. One of the issues is that people have been talking about pilots, and anyone who is in the field of e-governance will hear that India is a land of pilots. A lot of pilot projects come here and die. And there has been a lot of talk about let's stop doing pilots now, let's only focus on big projects. So what I want to talk here is, I believe that big projects are important, but as much as that there is a great need of having that window of opportunity for doing a lot of pilots for a country, a huge country like India. And when I say pilots, that opportunity to innovate, opportunity to experiment, opportunity to try new things, So that is a very important case which I think which should be explored. For example, in 2008, Washington, D.C., the government, local government there announced a app competition, announcing that we are going to open up our local data, local traffic data, their road data, demographic data, whatever is non-sensitive, but still which could be like given out, and did a app competition that software developers develop apps on these data, and those the best ones like get a prize and a recognition and an award. And that was initiated by Vivek Kundra, who was the CIO at that time there. And that then again got replicated to various other cities and various other departments of the US governments. And now it has all like merged into a huge initiative which is called data.gov portal of the US government, where a lot of raw data collected by various agencies of the government is put up there. And anyone, any individual organization or anyone else can download and create apps and sell them. What it is creating is a new way of looking at things, new way of engagement of the government with the software community and overall community as citizens, and leading to creation of new companies in the ecosystem. So what I'm trying to raise the issue is that today, whatever e-governance, like if you talk about all over the country, there are around 25 or at most 50 companies or even 100 maximum who are involved in the overall e-governance system creation of the country. The country like India, which has around 35 states and several hundreds of cities and lakhs of villages, needs many more companies, maybe thousands or thousands of them. And we need to open up this opportunity for SMEs and small innovators. Today, the government tenders will tell us that the entry barrier is minimum turnover of 1,000 crore or 100 crore or 500 crore. So the entry of the small innovators, small companies is barred. And I think that that is leading to somewhere of a cartelization of the market. Take the case of airlines market. We created a system that airlines, only the big ones can survive, and all are in trouble, and the overall ecosystem is in trouble. So just saying that, look at this data angle. Already India and US have signed this open government platform initiative. Dr. Shiv Kumar just talked about how much initiative now Ministry of Science and Technology, DIT, and other departments are talking about opening of data. There is a RTI regime already existing in the ecosystem, which is by which there is legally possible to share data. So creation of those ecosystem, and I will the DIT senior official is here on the stage, and my suggestion is that think about creation of e-governance innovation fund, where we open up this fund for SMEs, open up this fund for academia to partner with the government and partner with the local panchayat, local government, local your municipality, your water department, electricity department, whatever, and try out innovative things at low cost, like software developers around the country, lakhs of them in engineering colleges sitting unemployed. They will be happy to participate, create a mechanism to engage them and get their energies out and build up a new system. So that's a thought which I had, and I will stop here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta, for the point regarding the window for, as we should say, letting 1,000 flowers bloom. May I invite from the audience? You've heard a fairly diverse range of opinions and topics in this session, and the definition perhaps of what inclusive growth is has been fairly widened by this panel here. And I think that's very interesting. But if there are any questions, any comments addressed to the panelists or just in broadly? Yes, please.
I have some observation and maybe if panelists think they merit some comment, that would be very nice to hear. But first of all, I would like to congratulate the eWorld Forum because it's concluding time that it was an excellent seminar and there were certain very excellent topics which were discussed. The previous session was excellent in the way it was constructed and the way the bouquet of subjects were put together. And I must congratulate Ravi for your closing remarks because the truth is that this so-called cartelization, because cartelization is not really a nice word, but kind of barrier to entry of a small player is definitely, I see there is a clear movement of this barrier increasing. And ma'am, I'm from CMC and I have seen this IT industry and the way it has shaped over the last 20 odd years. I have seen that even in DIT there is a movement that RFPs come which focus on certain aspects which are related to financial and delivery muscle, and which I'm not saying is not important. But then that spirit of innovation, etc., is definitely, sort of discouraged because there is a barrier to entry for a smaller player to come into the game. And to this extent, elements like an app store, which Mrs. Reenu Budhraja talked about, and cloud technologies would definitely could be disruptive but game changing. And to that extent, unleashing the large audience which are RT players in universities, in education system, small places, small vendors, that definitely can be, something can be done to unlock that. Now, I would, if you permit, will make another remark related to e-waste. As I understand, silicon is a very toxic element in most of these e-waste. So I was looking whether you would mention something about silicon, which is the main ingredient in most circuit boards, how it will be handled in the e-waste. Another aspect on which in fact I happened to participate in a NASCON Terry initiative related to sustainability, and to that extent again organizers are to be complimented for including this, because it talks about starting to the very end of at least the life cycle of the product. The silicon portion is very important, and usually when we manufacture, we usually track what is the chip or what is the circuit board. I'm aware from personal knowledge that an Ethernet card you can track through the MAC address, etc., wherever it goes. So whether we can ensure that if suppose 1 lakh circuit boards were produced, through their manufacturing and tracking, we can conclude till they are, finally exhumed and recovered for basic elements. So some policy or framework or something can be worked out with associations like PAINT to ensure that we know that, okay, out of 1 lakh at least 90,000 have found their way to. So this is what I wanted to add.
Thank you. Perhaps Dr. Chatterjee, you can respond. I'll come back on the first issue which you spoke about after a few more questions. But Dr. Chatterjee, perhaps you could respond on the point of silicon.
Thank you for this query. First of all, we should say this is the exclusive law of electronic waste has been enacted from 1st May of 2012. in my presentation also, I mentioned this law has to be strengthened in many fronts. RFID tracking of PCB and the things is a far-reached implication in our country. We are in a very preliminary stage, and we do not have a recycling technology, end-to-end recycling technology. That is what DIT is trying to have, some technology, cost-effective technology. And in this field, I am working for last 7 years. I have studied, I have written a lot of articles and books also. I found that in India, it should be cost-effective if you talk about the non-formal and formal sectors equi-participations. So up to PCB stage, if you can take the PCB from the non-formal sectors after the recycling technology in place, where PCB can be recycled by few players, so this problem can be addressed. If you are talking about the tracking of exact tracking of the things, it will come into our market if once we have some sort of technology, and this issue needs to be addressed in some days. And also I have told that the target of generation, target of recycling, this is also a loopholes in our law, and also the punishment is not been addressed. So these are the issue needs to be addressed, and some people are saying we are talking about the formal recyclers. Technical audit and also there are few BTCers came that day in our department. I was interacting with them. They told very right place. Your procurement system in the ministry, in the government, they has to be also audited if they are having a right cycle of recycling of their EPR, extended producer responsibility. They are the right manufacturers or not. So these are the issues. Of course, DIT is giving the suggestions. We are giving our suggestions to the MOEF. They are the right ministry for handling the waste management and hazardous loss. DIT's roles are uprising them. So we are not actually in the law-making ministry, or not. We are not implementing also. But the technology aspects we are working on. So thank you for your points. We are trying to find out the ways the cheap recycling and silicon will be addressed in our technology. Thank you.
Any other points from the audience? Then I'll just respond to his issue then. The point being raised by Mr. Gupta and you also regarding the cartelization, or at least the sort of approach in government to look at turnover as an indicator for eligibility. I think this is an area to which we are increasingly sensitive. I did not touch upon it too much at that point because this conference has seen a stream of people from my division who have addressed different aspects, so I was not quite clear on what one of my colleagues may or may not have said. But having said that, there are two ways in which we are trying to relook at this issue. One, of course, as Renu had discussed, is that we are working with the first group of states to look at their cloud solutions, and there what we are trying to promote is software developed in-house or developed in that state, and how that can be shared across cloud platforms with other states. So that means developing good solutions locally, maybe by small companies, maybe by in-house teams, and that gets shared as a best practice through the government app store. The other thing which we are doing very much more consciously even is on the mobile front. We are actually looking, as we are moving forward, on encouraging the use, converting services or making services enabled on mobile platform, and that piece to be done by SMEs. So shortlisting or identifying small, nimble companies which are able to do this, that's a conscious effort which is coming in for introduction of mobile services. So these are two windows through which we hope to bring in many much more players, smaller players perhaps smarter and quicker players. I think you would like to add something.
You see, UNGP is working on a project under the Stockholm Convention on e-waste, because e-waste generates a lot of persistent organic pollutants. Please remember, e-waste is benign until you burn it. If you have a computer and you let it be for 10 years, nothing is going to happen to it. Only when it is burnt and acid is put on it, you get these fumes. So e-waste left by itself is not harmful.
I understand, but the key concern was when it is being sort of recovered in an informal sector.
That is indeed a concern, and we are working with the Global Environment Facility out of Washington to work on a project where we try to control because under the Stockholm Convention the POPs need to be controlled, and we are a signatory to the Stockholm Convention, so we are working on that. And I think it's a very important area, because let me tell you that India used to be far behind Europe as far as e-waste generation used to be concerned. Europe generates about 1 million tons, and we are projected to generate 800. And so, the way e-waste is being generated, it's an area of grave concern for all of us.
Thank you. I think if there are no further inputs from the audience or any further questions, we can perhaps conclude this session here. I would like to thank all the speakers for their very interesting insights in the areas of knowledge communities, in terms of data and data access, and e-waste management, and widening the net of the players in the e-governance and space. So with these words, I'd like to thank you all for being here for this session, and also to the speakers for their very valuable contributions. Thank you.
Hello. May I take the liberty in your presence to invite one of the delegates to talk about this experience of the conference for 5 minutes, and then have a feedback and any suggestions. So, may I invite you, madam, yes, just to come here, and I can, you have been a very attentive, I will say, delegate. So be here and give your impressions and what we. Yeah. So what, according to you, where some of the highlights and where are the areas to improve for the next time? If you can suggest.
Okay. Yeah. Well. Yeah, that's
also,
very spontaneous. Yeah, okay. I have been a
yourself.
speaker here, and also have been attending most of the sessions, I think. And I'm just always amazed at just how complex and how many issues we have to solve in this whole area of e-governance. So I think you have really taken on a very, very big topic. And I have been dealing with e-governance in the past 5-6 years, and in Hong Kong, which is such a small and such a rich city, and also in Germany, in my home country. And so compared to India, I think these problems in Hong Kong and Singapore and also in Germany seem so small, because we have a rather homogeneous level of broadband penetration and so on. And here we are dealing with so many issues. That this e-waste problem was rather new to me, very interesting to hear about it. And this wide range of issues that we need to tackle. And I think it's very good to create this community and to continuously
learn what are the issues and where could we go and what are possibilities for going ahead. Regarding the setup of the, because I've taken part recently in a lot of unconferences, which are styles of conferences which are a bit more interactive with the delegates. So I'm very glad the light is on now, if I may say that. I found it a bit tiring also for the delegates to sit in a dark room for 2 days. And for me, for instance, I have hardly been outside for 2 days. So I think my mind is a little bit in this confined in this dark room. So maybe it will be good for all of us to go out also and now reflect and digest all these many, many ideas that we have received. Yeah. But I'm very, very thankful, and as I mentioned, I come to India quite often, and I'm always so inspired, and I just think that India will be one of the leading knowledge economies in the not so far future, I hope. And I think there are many great initiatives under the government in the National E-Governance Plan. Thank you very much for letting me invite you.
We extend warm thanks to our speakers. Now I request Dr. Ravi Gupta, Editor-in-Chief, E-Gov Magazine, to present token of thanks to our eminent speakers. Now I request Dr. Ravi Gupta to extend formal vote of thanks.
So, first of all, thanks to our eminent delegates, our eminent speakers, and e-governance, as you all said, all you heard, is a really vast topic, and 2 days are too small to cover it actually. So we have tried to accommodate as many diverse issues as we could, and I think that we had a great discussions. And all the, just to like inform, many of you have been asking that all the videos and all the PPTs of the presentations which have happened here will be available online on our website eWorldforum.net, where you can discuss, comment, and deliberate, and we will have this like conference going on online actually. So as our previous speaker said, it's an online community which will keep on interacting, and we can then meet again and discuss face to face. Just to like tell you, all of you, that next month in the same venue, we are having a conference called World Education Summit, which is only about education. And in November, we have our annual event called E-India in Bangalore. So I invite you all to attend these events also. And I look forward to being connected to all our speakers, all our delegates, through our 3 magazines, e-governance, e-health, and digital learning, and all our portals. And I thank the partners of this event, which is very important, the Department of IT, Department of Telecom, Department of Science and Technology, and various other divisions of various ministries who have supported this event, and also our sponsors and exhibitors who have been a great support for this event. So with this, thanking you all, and especially thanking Madam Tibetia for being here and supporting us through the Department of IT. Thank you so much.